So we're going to dive into the daily yoga launch.
Yay.
Which is going to be awesome.
I'm super excited.
And this podcast will launch right about the same time as the product goes out in the app.
Okay.
And it's really cool because Mountain Tough launched the dailies a few years ago, and it was off this idea of what could we do if we were going to virtually train someone every single day. So if Mountain Tough staff was your personal trainer, the whole staff, how would we train you every day if you walked in this building?
Yeah.
And how could we take that experience and make it virtual? And before that, we had a lot of programs, and the programs were 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But the hard thing with that is when you finish a 6-week program, you don't really want to go back and go through it again. You always want something fresh and new.
Yeah.
And then human performance is always changing, and we're always learning as we're training people.
Yeah.
So we launched the dailies, and they just exploded. They went viral. So we went from MGD to the gym daily, and then we started wondering after that, how could we train people spiritually, nutritionally, holistically in this daily model. So it started with the MGD and then went gym daily, and then we went with the daily prayer, just like the MGD and the gym daily. Our daily prayer has gone pretty viral. There's something magic about fresh content every single day.
Yeah.
And now we're about to go from our last new product of daily prayer to our next product of daily yoga.
Woohoo.
It's exciting.
It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
There is something you said about having something, it's like really going to a class every day. You know, someone's like showing up, creating something for that day specifically. And I feel like it's hard sometimes to do things at home. So I think it's nice to have like, okay, I'm popping on. I know it's going to be new. It's fresh. They're doing this like for me and everyone. There is something, it makes it easier to show up and do it, you know, when you know it's like fresh and just like it's one day and it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that freshness, and then there's also some FOMO.
Yeah.
Because people know that it's going to expire.
Yeah.
And that's the same experience you get going to class. If you're going to class a lot and then your friends are there and you miss it, you're like, man, I wonder what everyone did today.
Yeah.
And there's no way to make it up.
Yeah.
And so that is part of the secret sauce of the dailies is that FOMO. That FOMO kind of creates accountability.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it within 24 hours, you're never going to even see what happened.
Yeah. And you can hear, you know, in the next daily, if you miss like a Tuesday and you're on Wednesday and, you know, the coach refers back to what happened yesterday, you're like, I missed it, you know? Or if they give a teaser of like what's to come tomorrow, I think is really fun. It just is it's a different twist having something daily and new.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with my background on kind of how this all came to this moment, because it all started with the whole yoga addition to Mountain Tough definitely started from my experience over the last several years.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of cool connections to that. And so Mountain Tough had been training really, really hard in the early days of like our company history. And I personally was training really, really hard, doing really heavy strength days, lots of high intensity days. And then I was also doing a lot of like marathon trail run type events. And I definitely went into a little bit of an overtraining mode. And the overtraining mode for me was definitely connected to never doing any kind of stretching at all. And even though we were promoting a lot of stretching to our customers, and our customers were getting a lot of great warm-ups and cool-downs inside of our app and inside of our lab, I personally wasn't doing a great job of like taking care of my body, even though I was pushing my body really hard. And then there's also there's also like a stress component too, to like overtraining, because just being a business owner, there's some additional stress. And then I was pushing my body physically, creating some more stress. And it was about 4 years ago that it kind of finally caught up with me. And I bulged my L5 S1 doing back squats in the gym. So I was squatting heavy in the gym and here in our lab, and I completely went down, like I heard it pop, and I was down on the ground, could not get up. We had to bring a chiropractor over to the building just so that I could kind of get up off the ground.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of components to what happened that day in terms of like overtraining, stress, and then not lengthening certain muscles in my body. So like certain things were tight, like my hip flexors, which turned my pelvis, which made my form bad, which all kind of compounded with me bulging a disc. So I bulged a disc, and it took, you know, several weeks to recover from that, just to be able to walk around. And then that led to a lot of rehab, and the rehab was a lot of physical therapy type stuff. And then there's like steroid packs you take to try to reduce the inflammation in that disc. And I was doing rehab, and slowly I started feeling better. And then I went through this kind of cycle for about another year where like every 6 months my back would go out again. So I would feel really good. I still wasn't taking care of my body that well. I would kind of do enough rehab movements to be feeling good, and then I would hurt myself again.
Yeah.
And one of the times was intense enough that my back went out and I couldn't get up off our bedroom floor for like a full 16 hours. So
Brutal.
I was like down on the ground, like laid on the floor, slept on the floor, could not get up. And after that moment, I started really thinking about like how I was going to fix my back. So I went to the orthopedic offices and started talking to a lot of orthos. And one guy, finally, after like several appointments, he said, "You're either going to need to do surgery or you're going to need to do yoga." And I was like, that's super interesting. And I was like, I'd way rather do yoga than surgery.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a scary moment also, because I didn't realize that I was at the point of surgery potentially.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of friends with great experiences with back surgery, and I've had a lot of friends with terrible experiences with back surgery.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredibly freaky surgery anyways. Like a lot of times they have to come in through your abs. They move like your organs out of the way, and they fix your spine internally from the front side. And so I was like, man, that sounds terrible to have to go that far.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that it'll go right.
Yeah, totally.
And sometimes they have to fuse that disc. Sometimes they don't, which limits your range of motion long term. So I was like, I'm definitely going yoga. And that's when I started going to hot yoga right away, wound up in Jackie's studio.
Yeah.
And not instantly, but definitely within several weeks, like I started kind of having this complete transformation.
Yeah.
And it was because of, you know, the movements we were doing and still are doing. It's like everything is really the same movements that a physical therapist would give you to heal your back. 99% of those movements are in a yoga class. And then you add the body weight and the calisthenic type movements. So it was covering everything that I was missing with Mountain Tough when I started going to yoga. And so even though I was doing a lot of strength training, a lot of HIIT training, a lot of cardio training, a lot of endurance training, I still was kind of missing this piece. And the piece was all these movements that were in yoga.
Yeah.
And there was this whole mental component also.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think with me in my back, it was healing my back, but with the mental component, it was also balancing out my stress life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And I remember early on telling Jackie that like it really in many ways kind of saved my life, because I think that if I wouldn't have found that, I think potentially I would have went down the surgery route. And the stress component, the mental component of those classes, it was definitely transformational for me. And so that's been several years in the making. And for several years, I've just been going to hot yoga 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And if I make it 3 times a week, I feel 100%.
Yeah.
If I'm like once a week with travel, I notice like my back start tightening up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been like one of the greatest components of my training in the last couple of years. And so,
was that your first hot yoga class?
yeah,
What, your
first of my
one?
life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was all because of that like surgery or yoga conversation. It was like a wake up call.
Yeah, totally. What did you think your first time, like when you went into the room and they're saying these postures and names, were you like, what is going on? Or were you like, that's okay, I'm following along, I can do this?
Yeah, the first time I was super tight. I remember being way tighter than everyone else in the room, like trying to do some of the movements. And then the heat is definitely like a special component. But I love that I definitely noticed the mental side right away, because in yoga, in the Mountain Toughers, we'll experience this with your daily yogas.
Yeah.
You can't start daydreaming about the rest of your life or you're going to completely fall apart. And so in these types of classes that the Mountain Toughers are going to experience, if you start thinking about anything else than the present moment, then you fall out of the position, or you kind of lose your balance and stability.
Yep.
And so you have to be present the whole time, the whole 40 minutes, the whole hour, the whole 30 minutes, whatever class you're in.
Yeah.
When you lose that presence, you notice yourself fall out.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
But staying in that present really kind of like clears your head mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. You can see it too when people like start trembling or losing, like you can't focus on it, like you said, anything else. It drops you out of the whole experience, your whole mind-body experience, which is what's supposed to happen during your yoga practice.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start thinking about your to-do list, your day, or as soon as you start to take your gaze somewhere else to help you focus, you come right out of one, just like the present moment, but two, you're coming out of the shape immediately and like falling out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mental side of it is really, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of mental toughness too. I mean, there's so many times you want to break, like you want to come off your shoulders, but you just have to fight it out.
Oh, yeah. I love that feeling. I love that feeling.
And I think the core strength that is involved too is a big part of like healing a lot of people's backs. I mean, most of the issues that are going to come up around back problems are related to the core.
Fully.
And the core stuff in those classes is nuts.
Yeah, truly. I don't think since I started my yoga journey, there has not been a time where I have had, thankfully, just any back problems. Like when people start talking about it, I'm like, I can't relate. I can't relate but I think I owe that all to just like the yoga practice and like truly strengthening my core, which supports my back and everything. I don't deal with any back tension. And if I do, it's super minor. And like you said, if you get back into your yoga practice and doing those postures over and over again directly strengthens that. And you don't have that experience, like back problems and things like that. And I've had a lot of people in class, or even just like my family members, that have like a similar issue, just like chronic back issues, back tension from stress. I tell them, just like, do a little bit, 20 minutes a day. Like, go to your workout, come home, do a yoga workout, 20 to 30 minutes, and I promise you, you'll start to see results in that, and it will alleviate the back stress that you've been having. And so far, everyone has agreed with me once they've started.
I know it doesn't take a lot. And
It doesn't.
You can add it just to anything else that you're doing.
Yeah, I tell everyone, it's a great compliment to whatever you do in life for your favorite workout or the way that you like to move your body. Yoga is always a great compliment to that. Whether you add that in 3 times or 4 times a week, whether it's an hour, whether that's 25 to 40 minutes, it's not going to steer you wrong.
Yeah.
Ever. It's only going to add to your workout regimen.
Yeah. Yeah, that flexibility, especially, you see it now with like how many mountain toughers are going to yoga.
Yeah.
And you just see that our ability to stay flexible as we get older is like the key to quality of life.
Totally.
And for so many people, doing a lot of stretching on your own, not in a coached environment, just doesn't get done. But when you start like adding this to your life, that quality of movement creates this quality of life.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like what we're all searching for.
Totally. I would tell my brothers when I go visit them, I was like, because a lot of men typically do it. We all do, but I think typically a lot of men, a lot of hip tightness always. Like people come into class and they're always like, oh, my hips so tight. And we store a lot of tension and a lot of emotion in our hips. And so someone said somewhere, and now I live by it, someone said, unlock your hips, unlock your life. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. Once you have that range of motion in your hips, there's like nothing like that feeling. But I feel like some people don't even realize that it doesn't have to be so tight. You don't have to be so tight, and they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
But once you start, your yoga routine, you're like, oh my gosh, my hips are looser, my back's not as tight. I'm feeling stronger in a different way that I haven't experienced.
Yeah.
And I think that is really eye-opening for a lot of people.
For sure.
Especially in the workout community, just like heavy lifting, which is great. I think people they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know until they experience it.
Yeah, nowadays, I mean, everyone's sitting all day.
Yeah.
They say that, sitting's the new smoking, and so much of that is sitting all day. Those hip flexors are just locked up.
Totally.
Which is a major, major issue related to the spine.
Totally. And a lot of just like people working remote, and just like our generation just sitting and looking down on our phone, you see everyone's posture. Everyone has this like leaned over posture, and their neck and their back, and you develop that hump on your back. So I talk to a lot of people about that, because we're always like this motion. We need to open our chest, retract our chin, open everything up, so we're not sitting like this and we have all this neck tension, all this trap tension. And then also you're getting like the feared hump on your back. So we talk a lot about and that's why yoga, the big opening, each class is a lot of cat-cow. It's fully going into that motion of just opening up everything, because typically many people are just sitting like this all day and they don't realize. So I tell people that work remote or work at a desk majority of their days to you can do cat-cow right in a seat, in and out, all in a seat. You can just have 5 minutes where you get up and just open your chest. Or I tell a lot of people to grab a block, and at the end of their day, take a block in between their shoulder blades and just let their chest open and let their chin away from their chest. So we're not just curdled in that all day.
With texting and stuff, it's
totally
crazy.
Scrolling.
Yeah. So how did your whole yoga journey start for you?
Yeah, my yoga journey started when I was in college, I went to, or maybe when I was in high school, I went to my first hot yoga class. I didn't think much of it. And then when I was in college, I went to, me and my college roommates, we would go to this hot yoga in our town. And I remember loving it so much. I grew up having a background in ballet and playing competitive ball sports. And I remember thinking, this feels like my blend of both. I loved ballet so much for the way you could move your body in this way of softness, but it was crazy intense. Ballet, anyone that does it, it's a very intense sport. But it has this way of like softness and moving your body. And then, but I loved competitive sports for just, the aggression and, and that's fun. You're sweating a ton, you're competing, and that was, So when I went to yoga, I remember being like, this is incredible. It was specifically a hot yoga class. And so it was this like intensity that I was looking for, but also this softness in the body that I craved from ballet. And the way that I think just like moving and expressing your body in that way was really amazing to me. And the way just like different shapes you can put your body in that you don't like yourself, you didn't even know you could do that or what your body is capable of. And then I kind of stopped that for a while and it picked back up. A few years ago, I was I was just cleaning at a yoga studio, and I was taking class 5 to 6 times a week. And I remember craving it. And this was specifically a hot power yoga. So, which is all about strength building, flexibility, and mobility. It wasn't just, there's a lot of different types of yoga out there, like slow flow, restorative, hatha, just like static postures. But this was more power, dynamic movement, but also still having this flexibility portion and mobility that I loved. But it was the power that really kept me going. And then you add the heat. So I remember being addicted to it right away. And I was finishing school in massage therapy. I went to college and then I wanted to do something else with the human body. So I went to school for massage therapy. I was waiting for my license to come in while I was cleaning at this yoga studio and taking classes. And then I got close with the owner, Jackie, and she was like, I'm doing, a teacher training and you should do it. And I was like, well, I've got nothing else, going on right now. I'm waiting for my license to come in. And so I took the teacher training and it, dove in all about the philosophy of yoga. And we would practice 2 times a day doing hot power yoga. And I remember that brought me back to my athletic days where I would go to, practice twice a day for hours. And it brought me right back to that where every morning and every evening we would do our power yoga practice. And I love that. My spirit eats up the physical and the mental aspect of how hard it is, but how amazing the reward is after. You pushing yourself to a limit that you don't know until you do it. And so that just got me. And so right after I did the training, I went right into teaching, which just kind of expedited my own self-yoga practice where I was teaching and I was practicing. And it, like you, changed my life. I think changed the way I think I was mentally, my mental toughness skyrocketed once I started doing especially power in this heat where so bad you're like, I want to give up out of this. This is the worst. It's not. But in the moment you're like, am I going to finish strong?
Yeah, it's a mental battle.
It's a mental battle. And I think I love the feeling of pushing myself to the limit, to the line, and just riding that. I think that yoga taught me how to tap into my breath in those moments of like, it is so hot in here right now. This warrior two is killing me. We're here for like a minute, I swear. But being able to tap into this, like, I'm not going to come out of this. I'm actually fine. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. I'm staying still. Everything around you just like closes out and you're like, I got this. And I think a lot of people, once you experience that, that's what gets you to come back and back, because you realize you're like, oh, I can do this. And now I've really like accessed that in the outside world, where things that I'm like, I want to give up and I want to like not do what I'm doing anymore. This is really hard. This is really tough on my body. You tap into that same mental state and your same breath, like, you're not, and you actually can do this, and you will finish strong. And you're going to come out of this being like, I did it. I'm fine.
Yeah, that's how mental toughness works.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That you do something you think is impossible and you do it. And then when you are outside hiking or outside skiing or snowboarding, you're like, oh, it's the same skill set that got me through that class.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's life-changing, and it's life-changing now to experience that on the other side of teaching and watching a lot of people and a lot of men like yourself start to come, because I think for a long time it was very female dominant, and now you see a lot of men coming in that are big into weightlifting, big into the outdoors, hunting, mountain athletes coming in and changing their world. And it's my favorite thing to witness. Yeah. It's my favorite thing, because I think a lot of, now that there's this like power hot yoga, I think a lot of men can relate to that a little bit more, this like mental toughness that I think they crave, which again, a lot of myself also craved that. Yeah. That keeps them going, like pushing themselves to the edge that they didn't know they could be at in a different way outside of weightlifting, hunting, being in the mountain, whatever it is. Now experience that in this like yoga world, I think is really cool to witness.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that there is, for men, there is negative emotion sometimes when they think about yoga. So some really important things to mention are the classes that Mountain Toughers are going to find in the app from you. The new daily yoga is a unique experience. You almost want to think about it for our listeners as like the hardest body weight workout you're ever going to do. So this is not the really low-key relaxation type of yoga. No. This is definitely the hardest body weight workout you're ever going to do.
Yeah.
So like when I go to your class, you are spot on. When you look across the room now, the room is going to be full of, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu guys in there, a lot of MMA guys. There's a lot of, there's some special operations guys. Yep. There are a lot of ultra runners, mountain athletes, skiers, snowboarders, a lot of runners, trail runners. So it's this big, diverse group in the room, and it's because we're all chasing the mental toughness, I think is probably why most of us are there. But then we're gaining the mental toughness as we're gaining this crazy quality of movement at the same time. Yeah. So it's like, it's all these like multiple bangs for your buck going to a class like this or doing a workout like this in the app. Because you're getting the best body weight workout of your life. You're getting the mindset, the mental toughness, and then you're gaining all of this flexibility, stability, balance. Yeah. It's we even talked about this, like planning the launch of your program. I wish that we had like another word other than yoga to explain it, because it's so much more that with the power yoga style, it's like its own breed of product.
Yeah, totally. I know it is. I think it's funny to hear you mention like all the people that are in that room, because it's true, and everyone does, I think, comes in because they hear probably to a similar experience of yours, like it's either or this or yoga, and everyone's like, yoga? You want me to like hold a pigeon, you know, for a couple minutes? And it's my favorite when people come in and they're like, I'm not, too worried about it. It's just like yoga. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, you're not worried? I'm not worried. And no, they shouldn't be worried. But because I know what's going to happen in that room or in that class, I'm like, you're going to be way more challenged than you think you are. But you're not realizing it's this strength component and flexibility and mobility and this mental toughness that I think a lot of people don't think about that when they go into a yoga class. They're not thinking about all those things, or they're not thinking about like mental toughness or holding or like we're doing push-ups, for a lot of planking, so much shoulder, so much that I think people, when they haven't done yoga or think about the stereotypical just type of slow flow restorative, which again is also really amazing and people should do that. When you hit a power style, strength focus, strength building and mobility type of yoga, people get hooked right away, especially if they are training hardcore for that ultra race, training hardcore for bow season. It's only going to help every part of the life that they're training for or the sport that they're training for. They just don't know it until they start doing it. You're like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing.
Yeah, it is wild how many components are all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that you are right that a lot of people don't think about mental toughness or talk about it. And I think that the ability to like identify that you are building it and then fight through those holds longer and then try not to break when you want to break and start kind of playing those mind games with yourself and then see if you can finish a whole class without breaking, and can you get fewer breaks than you did last time. Then that because mental toughness, a lot of times we talk about it at Mountain Tough and turning ceilings into floors. And so like if you do your first daily yoga and you think it's impossible, you don't think you can be on your shoulders that long, that's kind of your ceiling. And so your ceiling looks difficult, it looks impossible. And then the more that you do it, then pretty soon that starts to become your floor. And then you're wondering, what's the next hardest thing?
Totally.
And I think that's when you see a lot of these goals in people's life open up, because once you turn a ceiling into a floor, then that is a lot of times when you'll see someone say, I should do that half marathon I've always wanted to do, or I should sign up for that trail race I've always wanted to do. Because you're stacking kind of that I can do hard things mentality. And now, like with your product, you can build that mentality in your basement. Just turn on your smart TV, do your daily yoga, and just kind of build that mental toughness every day.
Yeah, totally. And there's such a discipline to yoga in general. And there's a discipline to everything that is a practice. But those certain shapes that you hold for so long that you want to come out of, it's like, I think about the ultra runner or the mountain athlete that has to climb up that mountain for so long they cannot break because they have to go over it, and I think it's such an amazing practice to implement because you're getting that same feeling of like holding in that forearm plank for so long and you want to break so bad, or holding in even just downward facing dog is so tough on your shoulders. And a warrior too, which when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's nothing. But when you're holding that for that long, your hips, your legs, your shoulders, it's a discipline, to show up for your practice, whatever that looks like. And then two, to like do it and fight through it and not like and not give up because you can. And also, it's 30 to 40 minutes. Like, you
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can. Like, don't break because you've got it. It's going to be over soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just fighting to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Which feels so good. I don't think anyone looks back at anything that they do and go, oh, I wish I broke. You know, I wish that I came like out of that plank. You know, obviously, if you're like fighting an injury, maybe that's different. But I think no one looks back. It's like, I should have just like taken that break, you know, like for the most part. I think everyone looks back. This is why I love the MTNTOUGH Yoga Dailies, because they're super challenging. It's quick, and you're gonna be fighting. You're gonna be shaking for a minute, and then it's over, and you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like, and I'm gonna do it again. And then, like you said, it only is like upward. Like, okay, what else can I do?
Yeah.
You know, what are other things that this is gonna translate to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they do go by fast.
super fast. Hopefully,
We should break down some of the details. So there'll be 5 new ones a week because we don't do the dailies on the weekends. And are we doing different times? Are they all the same time? How's the structure of the week gonna flow?
yeah. 5 times a week, we got MTNTOUGH Yoga Daily. 5 times, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we've got 30 minutes. Tuesday, Thursday, we've got 40 minutes. So they're all going to be similar styles of our MTNTOUGH Yoga. So super strength focused, obviously. And the 40-minute ones is going to be nice because, again, super strength building. They're all going to feel challenging. And the 40-minute ones just have a little bit longer so we can focus on a little bit more kind of stability and balance towards the end, which I think is really important. Those 30-minute ones are going to be pretty dynamic. So we're moving through a sequence. You know, we're adding in like just more pulses, and so it's going to go, those 30 minutes are going to go quick, but they're going to be challenging. It's going to be good. And the 40-minute ones are going to be the same amount of challenge. Just we have a little bit longer, which is great too for people that if that's their only workout of the day, it's going to count out as a workout. Like, you can still finish that 40-minute and be like, sweet, I got a really great body weight workout yoga practice in today. And 30 minutes are great too if you're in a pinch, you don't have anything and you've got 30 minutes, or adding that on to your workout that you already did. So, which is awesome. I love a good 30-minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that when we were setting them up, was, you know, who's going to do it as a standalone workout and who is going to do it in addition. And I think we'll see with the MTNTOUGH community, we'll see a lot of both, where someone who's doing like the gym daily with Nick on the really focused strength sessions, you know, they might do 2 or 3 of those a week and then add 2 or 3 yoga dailies a week to really like stay holistic as an athlete.
Yeah.
And then you might have some more of like the hardcore folks that are going to do a hard workout in the morning and then their yoga daily in the afternoon, kind of on that 2-a-day style.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing, is like, it's kind of like the sky's the limit for the MTNTOUGH customer now. They can just kind of make their own recipe. And
I love that so much. I love that there's so many dailies that come out. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do my MGD and I'm going to do my MTNTOUGH Yoga Daily. Like, what do I feel like today? What do I want to do? Or what's going to be best for my body, or what I'm working towards? I love that MTNTOUGH offers that. I think that's the best because I don't know. I think some days you're like, I love a good 2 a day. You know, you see a lot of people in classes that I teach, that you take, that's their second workout of the day.
Yeah.
You know, everyone in there, it's like, this is all of your guys' second workout of the day. But they love that. Because it's a different workout that they did probably that morning, you know, which I think is super fun. But again, as a standalone, you're still feeling accomplished, that you did something, you worked your body hard, which I love that about this style of yoga, that you can feel really accomplished if that's your only thing that you're doing that day. Awesome. Yeah. If that's your second that you're doing that day, awesome. It's going to be great for both.
And so many people just have these crazy professional lives now where they're at home with their gym equipment one day, and then they're on the road the next day. Maybe their hotel has a gym, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the hotel gym's awful.
Yeah.
And so having this flexibility of like an elite body weight workout,
Yeah.
you can literally do these anywhere, anytime.
No excuses.
No equipment at all.
Yeah.
So that option is awesome.
Yeah.
For, nothing, there is no excuse not to add this in.
None. No excuse. And I think, like you said, our world today, everyone is at home or traveling a ton, I think being able to get someone guiding you through a workout that you're like, you feel really good about instead of like, nothing wrong. You go on YouTube, you look up a little 30-minute whatever, that's great. But sometimes you're like, I don't know if that did that for me today, So I think Mountain Toughs, like you're going to be pushed, whatever you're doing, you're going to be pushed. And I think everyone that is on that journey of their mental, physical, spiritual journey wants that. And I think that's what Mountain Tough provides, like you're going to be pushed in any of the programs.
Yeah. Like the one you ran Maddie and I through like 2 weeks ago that's filmed for the app. Our legs were shaking so bad.
It's my favorite.
You can't really get your legs to shake like that any other way.
Yeah.
I haven't had my legs shake like that in like 5 years. I was like, both of us were just dying.
Yeah. It's cool to see people like just with your body weight that can happen. Just with your body weight, can you be like, I am shaking and I want to come out of this so bad, whether we're in our horse squat or we're in our dolphin, which you're going to hear me say all the time. People love and hate it.
Yeah.
Because it's so challenging. And I think I didn't know that could happen to me when I started doing, power yoga and just body weight workouts in general, that I didn't know that it could be that amazing of a workout. And I could be so exhausted and my muscles would be fatigued right after. So it's great to see Dustin and Maddie shaking and sweating.
Oh, man. Yeah, with no gear at all in under 40 minutes. We were just dying.
Yeah, and that's with no heat. So I encourage anyone that is doing the Mountain Tough Yoga Dailies, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be hard regardless. If you want to add a little to that, put your heat on in your room. Yeah. Turn it on, a little space heater, 10 minutes before, and then go in and do it. You're heating it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels really good. That heat does feel really good. But if you're not into the heat, if that's not your thing, it's not everyone's thing. You don't have to have, it's going to be challenging regardless.
Yeah, we talked about that before recording on the heat, and I definitely would recommend for people to add heat. Like if you have a room with the space heater, or you can do the yoga dailies next to a heater.
Yeah.
Or if you can just crank up the heat in whatever room that you're using.
Yeah.
Because the heat is a huge component of that mental toughness.
Yeah.
You're going to get it without the heat.
Yep.
But if you are at home, try to add that heat and at least test it out and see if it's right for you.
Even if it's 10 degrees more is crazy. The different, like, you start sweating, like you're sweating without the heat.
Yeah.
But even if just bumping it up, like you said, even just bumping up like your thermostat 5 degrees, you can feel that. And it just adds a layer of this like mental toughness that you're going through the entire practice, dealing with the heat, and you're sweating and you want to come out of that shape so bad, but you don't.
And I think, there's probably a lot of listeners that are wondering like why a hunter should add yoga. And I can speak greatly into that because as a passionate mountain hunter, I've seen the benefits over and over and over again over the last 4 or 5 years that I've been doing yoga.
Yeah.
And it is pretty insane because like a mountain hunter, a lot of the day we're going to be like stepping over logs. We're off trail. We're going to get in a lot of deadfall, and that like hip flexibility and mobility is like the key to deadfall, and you're stepping over a log, over a log, over a log for like 6 hours trying to get to a certain spot.
Right.
And you'll see individuals that haven't worked on any flexibility or mobility, stability, and the deadfall will completely devastate their whole day.
Yeah.
Like if you have tight hips and you have to step over logs all day, there's like a common thing that hunters know, that once your hip flexors are smoked, they're done. Like you're not gonna like rest for an hour and feel great. So like if the hip flexors locked up, you're gonna have a really bad day.
Yeah.
And then as a hunter, you get in so many really weird positions with your body. So not only are you navigating loose, uneven terrain all day, nothing is
Yeah.
ever balanced.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever even. And then you're also getting on the ground, off the ground, on the ground, off the ground with heavy packs. And then even when you're laying on your spotting scope, or you're laying on your rifle, or you're doing a lot of glassing off your binos, sometimes you're laying in a weird position, you're upright with your back. So there are things that you start to notice, especially when you watch older hunters that haven't worked on any flexibility or mobility.
Totally.
There's just small things that start to inhibit them, and I've noticed those small things start to be kind of like a separator on how you're going to feel at the end of a day or the end of a trip.
Yeah.
And it's all about that quality of life. And at Mountain
Yeah.
Tough, a big thing that we talk about a lot is we think that there's this mindset that if you can be in better shape in your 30s than you were in your 20s, you can be in better shape in your 40s than you were in your 30s, better shape in your 50s than you were in your 40s. That mindset, that mentality actually works, and we've seen it, completely change people's lives. But even if you said, I'm going to be in better shape at 60 than I was at 50, even if you didn't hit that benchmark and you were 99% of the way there, you kind of just changed the whole trajectory of your life. Especially when you think about like, what activities am I going to be able to do when I'm 50? Am I going to be able to keep up with my kids?
Totally.
Am I going to be able to snowboard with my grandkids?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. I think what you're doing with the yoga dailies are one of the things that's going to make the biggest difference to, like, are we going to be snowboarding with our grandkids?
Yeah, totally. Totally. I'm watching my brothers for their first time with their newborn babies. And I'm always telling them about, obviously I'm talking about yoga all the time, and like, you need to be doing yoga because one day she's going to be up and doing her thing and dancing around, and you want to dance with her, or you want to, snowboard with her, whatever she's doing. And I think that piece of strength, flexibility, and mobility, you need all of those things, like you said, for the longevity of your life, your quality of life, the health of your relationship with your kids, or whatever you're deciding to do. I think that piece has been not talked about for a long time, and now is, which is amazing. And I think a lot of people are reaping the benefits, like yourself, like myself, like everyone that I've seen, everyone in that yoga room that is doing different things in their life, but they're adding in, like, our core strength is essential to like our body and like our back and our just having more range of motion in your hips. Again, you don't know what that feeling is like until you experience like looser hips, more mobile hips, and then stability, just walking. As we get older, I think about this all the time when I get older, and it's going to be icy. I'm going to get out of my car, going to do my thing, going in the grocery store, and there's going to be a patch of ice.
Yeah.
I want to be the lady that slides on that ice with grace. Nothing's taking me down.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are now experiencing the benefits that one practice can really help in so many different ways, building strength, increasing flexibility, range of motion in the body, and how much that translates into every aspect of our life, whatever we're doing. So we can all be 75 going down the mountain feeling good, or feeling as good as we can.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, keeping us out there.
Yes, totally.
Quality of life is so important.
So important.
Yeah.
And I think you don't know how much better you can feel doing the things that you already do if you just add this in. 30 minutes, 40 minutes a day, a few times a week. I think you don't know what that can do for you. Like you said, you're out there, you're hunting, you don't know that you could feel, I can actually feel better. I talk to a lot of people about that. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to feel that tight in your hips or experience that back tension and just like deal with it. It doesn't have to be dealt with. Like you can be free from that, but you have to be disciplined to show up for yourself and do this kind of movement and stay dedicated to it. And it doesn't have to be that way. And then you enjoy it because that's the thing that keeps you going, like yourself. Like that's the thing that helps your back to keep you going, to stay out in the mountains, to stay out playing with your kids,
Yeah, I think I'm so excited for the mountain toughers that want to take things kind of to the next level to start adding these to their life.
Yeah.
We've preached for a long time that you have to think about muscular endurance, muscular strength, stability, balance, nutrition, mental toughness, spiritual health. Like all of these things add up into the abundant life.
Yeah.
And I think that now with your product, the Yoga Dailies, people kind of have the ability to kind of level up, add something new, add something that's going to change the game.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. It's going to be awesome.
I'm super excited for everyone too. It's amazing to witness people step into something new that they have question marks around. Like, is this really going to do anything for me? Is this really, how am I going to benefit from this? And then do it and experience like just life-changing things in their body, in their mental state, in their spiritual life. It's awesome. I'm excited for the mountain toughers to experience this.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Well, thanks, Danny. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Dustin, you're awesome. Way to keep showing up.
Yeah. Ready for the hardest body weight workout you've ever done.
Oh, I'm so excited. High spice.
Yeah. Thank you.